For 20 years, the pulse of Arthur's Deli has lived inside a glass jar. This heirloom sourdough starter is the backbone of his entire menu. It requires daily feeding, precise temperature control, and constant refrigeration to stay alive. The space housing that deli is secured by a handshake deal. Only 2 years ago, Arthur's own sister, Beatrice, agreed to lock his rent at $6,500 a month for 5 years. Because they were family, they didn't put it in writing. Then, the deli becomes wildly popular. Seeing the lines out the door, Beatrice and her husband, Charles, abruptly abandon the verbal agreement. They demand the rent jump to $11,000 a month, effective immediately. This chart shows what that demand does to Arthur's business. At a $6,500 rent, the deli maintains a healthy operating margin. But when the rent bar spikes to $11,000, the margin evaporates, plunging the operation into the red. When Arthur pushes back, Beatrice weaponizes their shared history. She reminds him of how she cared for him when they were children, twisting their family bond into a deep emotional debt. Arthur freezes, unable to fight back against his own sister. He is also trapped by his own sweat equity. Arthur has spent decades doing the grueling physical labor required to build out this specific kitchen. This is the sunk cost fallacy. He has invested so much effort into this location that leaving feels impossible, even if staying guarantees financial ruin. When business is built on handshakes and family sentiment, you don't get a partnership. Instead, you get a toxic relationship where one side holds all the power and the other has absolute zero protection. Charles decides to force Arthur's hand. He manually cuts the power to the kitchen's rear circuit. The refrigerators die. Within hours, the 20-year-old sourdough starter will spoil, destroying the deli's core asset. Leo, Arthur's son, watches the stalemate and changes the approach. He sees that arguing about fairness or family loyalty is a losing strategy when the landlord is focused purely on the bottom line. To understand Leo's strategy, look at this diagram of negotiation leverage. The landlord side of the scale is slammed to the ground. Because Arthur has nowhere else to go, he is locked into Beatrice's terms. Leo secures the keys to a vacant property. In game theory, this is your BATNA, your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. By establishing a second option, Leo shatters the monopoly. Under the cover of darkness, Arthur and Leo carefully pack up the delicate sourdough starter into a protective crate, haul it out of the suffocating kitchen, and plug the refrigerators in at Mr. Harrison's empty building. Beatrice misunderstood her own asset. Her building's high value was an illusion created entirely by the foot traffic and brand loyalty Arthur generated. Without Arthur, she just owns an empty room. Leverage in a negotiation isn't determined by who has the loudest voice. It belongs to the person who has the credible ability to walk away. The next morning, reality hits Beatrice. With Arthur actually leaving, she faces a loss of guaranteed monthly income, plus the cost of renovating a highly customized commercial kitchen to attract a new tenant. Panic sets in. She immediately approaches Arthur and completely caves, offering him a formal, written 3-year contract locked in at his original $6,500 rate. Arthur looks at the offer and sees the trap. Signing this lease would reset the clock on Beatrice's emotional demands, leaving him vulnerable to the same manipulation once his success grows again. Arthur formally declines. He calculates his remaining closing costs, pays off the balance he owes to clear his ledger, and hands the keys to the old deli back to Beatrice. Within days, the new Riverside Deli opens its doors at Mr. Harrison's corner lot. The lines return, the sourdough starter thrives, and Arthur operates under a strict, legally binding lease that leaves zero room for interpretation. Relying on familial warmth without professional boundaries is a recipe for disaster. Clear, written contracts don't destroy family ties. They are the necessary firewalls required to protect them.